All right, today we're going to dive into a simple story that has, well, a surprisingly sharp edge to it. It's called The King and the Dirty Hut. And honestly, it gets right to the heart of a problem I think we all deal with, how comfort can be kind of deceptive. So let's just start with this one big question, okay? What if the very thing you run to, your greatest escape, actually ends up becoming your greatest prison? Just keep that in the back of your mind as we get into this. So, our story kicks off with the king. But this isn't some fairy tale king living the high life. No, this guy is carrying a serious burden. He's what you'd call the overwhelmed king. I mean, think about it. He's got all this power, right? But that crown is heavy. His entire life is just this nonstop loop of solving everyone else's problems, listening to complaints, and making these huge, important decisions one after another. He's totally burned out. And you can really see the two worlds just pulling him in opposite directions here. On one side, you've got the palace. Sure, there's power, but it comes with this crushing responsibility and just constant, unending stress. And on the other side, the forest. It represents everything he wants: escape, relief, and just the freedom to be nobody for a while. So yeah, he's desperate for a break. He does what any of us might do. He just escapes. He rides out deep into the forest, to go hunting and just clear his head. But that little bit of relief, it turns into a real crisis fast. The sun goes down, it gets dark, and suddenly he realizes he's completely and utterly lost. And when you're that desperate, you find yourself in some unlikely places, and he is about to make a choice he would never, ever have imagined. He eventually stumbles across this little hut, but let me tell you, this is no charming cabin in the woods. This place is just wretched. I mean, imagine a horrible smell just hanging in the air, insects crawling all over the place. The whole hut is just tiny and filthy. And in that moment, all his power, his status, it means absolutely nothing. The crown is gone. He's just a lost guy, begging this old woman, "Can I please stay here for tonight? I'm lost in the forest." So here's where things take a really interesting turn. Even with the terrible smell and the dirt, he is so completely exhausted that he just passes out. And when he wakes up, he feels amazing, truly refreshed for the first time in forever. And that's a huge clue, right? For him, the absence of responsibility felt better than any fancy, comfortable bed ever could. And that feeling, that amazing sense of relief, well, that's what sets the trap. This is where we get into the whole idea of the comfort trap. And it all starts with one simple, very dangerous thought: just one more night. And this is the thought that changes absolutely everything. He starts thinking, if I go back to my kingdom, it's just going to be more stress, more responsibility, and suddenly the idea of staying in that filthy hut seems like a much better option. And you can see exactly how this spiral happens. It's so gradual. The first night, that was about survival. But the second night, that was a choice to avoid his duties. And that choice turns into a daily habit, just one more night. And slowly but surely, something incredible happens. His senses just dull. The awful smell, the insects, he doesn't even notice them anymore. This miserable place has become his new normal. He's comfortable. Okay, so this is the real core of the story. That dirty hut isn't just a hut, right? It's a metaphor. It could be anything, really. A bad habit you can't shake, a job that makes you miserable, maybe a toxic relationship. It's any negative situation that we slowly get used to, until one day we don't even see it as a problem anymore. And that's the final kind of shocking outcome. A king, a guy who once lived in a magnificent palace, became totally comfortable living in total squalor. But here's the most important part of all. Nobody forced him. Day after day, he chose it. So now we get to the most important part of this whole thing. Because this story, it isn't really about a king at all. It's time to turn that mirror around on ourselves and ask, what is your own hut? Because, this isn't just some old tale about a king. It's about a deep, universal pattern, something that can happen in literally anyone's life. In my life, in your life. So let's make this really personal for a second. Think about the king's excuse, just one more night. Have you ever used a version of that yourself? Just one more day, or I'll quit next week, or I'll leave after this month is over. in a situation that you knew deep down you needed to get out of. And all of that brings us to the final question I want to leave you with. What's the dirty hut in your life? What uncomfortable, unfulfilling situation have you slowly, maybe without even realizing it, gotten comfortable in? Because the very first step to leaving that hut is just realizing you're in one in the first place.